Hi guys, it's Hannah, and today we are finally filming the end of the Percy Jackson season 1. They got renewed for season 2, which is so exciting. We're just gonna be going over my review of it, all my thoughts, my opinions, just random things, and kind of just like a recap of it all. Sorry this is coming to you so late. I was incredibly sick last week and could not film it. So we have episodes 7 and 8 to go over today, so let's just get right into it. So episode 7, the title of We Find Out the Truth, sort of. So Krusty is here, but this is like one of the shortest scenes that I have seen. I was so surprised. It honestly kind of felt just really random, and it was changed a lot, which obviously things in the book are not gonna be spot on in the movie because they have certain time restraints, but this just kind of felt like it was just thrown in there, and it was a little awkward, I'm not gonna lie. It was kind of random. And we just open without any context as to what is going on. Kind of just felt like they were spewing out like mythology to us. So they changed the whole thing that like Grover and Annabeth are not trapped. They're not like literally trapped to these water beds and about to die and get stretched out to death. I feel like if they were gonna make it that short of a scene, maybe they should have changed where the underworld entrance was to make it more so we weren't really being rushed during it. The baby Percy flashbacks have literally been ripping me apart every single fucking time. Every time he comes on screen, I literally, a piece of like my heart is pulled out of my chest. However, we start off with kind of an awkward scene, and it didn't really add anything to the story really until later when we get more flashbacks. Once Percy and Annabeth and Grover get into the underworld and they're like, "You're not dead," and he's like, and they're like, "Well, we are all dying." I honestly thought it was a little bit funnier in the book. I think those lines were really funny, and I'm glad that they included them and kind of like played on like the sarcasm of it. I think they're still not fully comfortable around each other, and I think that's just like a season 1 thing. I think now, after watching like interviews and stuff, they're so much more comfortable around each other, but that's because they've had so much time now to like hang out. They filmed an entire season. Now they're on like a press tour. They have actual time to get to know each other and stuff, but while they were filming this, they didn't have all that under their belts. So I think that'll come with time, and I think the snarkiness will come with it. Just the way the lines are delivered, I think, will come with more ease later on. I saw Walker act in The Adam Project. It's one of my all-time favorite movies. I just loved it so much. He's so funny, and he can really bring that to Percy, but he hasn't really fully yet. I think once now we have those ground level of like, this is what's going on, I think he'll be able to explore it a little bit more in the coming seasons. Severus and his ball was the cutest thing ever. I loved it so much. And honestly, Hades' Palace was literally giving Stranger Things. Like, genuinely thought that that's where we were, because it was quite literally upside down, which makes sense, but I was just like, Stranger Things? Hello? Also, Grover losing the pearl in the dog. I'm a little confused why they changed that and why they gave Percy 4 and didn't just give him 3 like before, especially if they're just gonna have Grover lose it in Severus. That was really weird. I don't know why they changed that. This episode really shows how Percy is loyal to a fault. A lot of his flashbacks too, if you really look for it, they show how loyal he is. I'm glad that they're planting that in there, especially for people who have been reading the books and loving them for so many years. I was freaked out when they started going through that forest and there were just people rooted in the ground. That was so weird, and they were not freaked out enough. I don't know what I would have done. And then Annabeth being caught with regret was very interesting. And then she immediately leaves with the pearl already, so they never had that like back and forth of, okay, who's getting left behind. I loved the scene where Grover's shoes start taking him to Kronos in that big like hole where he's in, because I think that was a really good like action scene, and I liked how Percy used Riptide to like stop them, and I think it was just a good scene overall. I really enjoyed it. I think it was very aesthetically pleasing as well. I literally wrote, why does little Percy just fucking rip my heart and shred it every time? Because literally every time he's on screen, it's just stabbing. But I also pictured the underworld a lot darker. They really lightened it a lot and kind of leaned into more of the like deserted land rather than just dark deep place, which I guess makes sense because there also is Tartarus, which is gonna come into play later on heavily. But I also realized that they don't really react to things a whole lot, like when they're acting and whatnot, because when the floor started moving and they just started going up and it turned into an elevator when they were visiting Hades, they had no reaction to it. I think that's just like something that they can work on. They'll figure it all out. This is the first season. First seasons are always not the best. So they have this whole interaction with Hades. Gods are so weird, literally so weird. Then we see Percy being like, "Mom, I'm gonna come get you, like, don't worry." The Helm of Darkness is revealed that it's missing. So they have to figure out where that's going. We get another flashback with Sally making an offering to Poseidon, and he shows up in this scene. It was probably one of my all-time favorites. I just loved it so much because it really just shows their relationship that we never got in the books. We were kind of just like, yeah, the gods just like have sex and leave. In this, we actually really get to see their like relationship. So beautiful, and I loved it. Also, is Poseidon British? Because I loved that. Just saying. It also gave a lot more backstory as to why Percy never went to camp before and like Sally's reasonings behind that, which I really enjoyed. It felt like this episode had more of an ending because we kind of end with Percy going off to battle with Ares. We had Poseidon talking over the scene. It just felt like it wrapped up so nicely, and it really felt like it was recalling back to the books of like, this is a story being told to you kind of, and it kind of felt like having Poseidon be able to talk over this big scene just like added so much to it, and I hope they continue that because it's just, I feel like it just makes it all the while better. But that is where we end for this episode. Overall, I enjoyed it. I think it was fun. I think acting points that could be worked on a little bit, but also just like some editing things were a little off. I think it's so interesting seeing how they all interpret like the underworld and stuff like that. So I'm enjoying that a lot. But let's move on to episode 8, the finale. It starts off with Luke saying, look, you didn't ask to be a half-blood. And I thought that was a brilliant opening. I really wish they would have called more back to Luke and how interconnected he is to the camp. A lot of people really look up to him. He's a lot of people's role models at the camp. Him and Annabeth went through a lot together. They're basically siblings. Annabeth has a crush on him, but we don't really see any of that, and we don't really see the relationship that Luke and Percy end up having at camp until now, until this episode. So I wish they kind of alluded more to that throughout the episode, but they didn't. I loved that opening. I think it was such a great opening. We realized that we're not in Santa Monica with like that huge crowd like watching with Ares. We figure out we're in Montauk, which is like very important to Percy. We get this big flashback of Percy and Luke training and how he learned to fight and whatnot, which I love because it really made sure that this betrayal was just hitting so much harder, and like I said, I wish we had more of that because I think they really could have emphasized that so much more and made us trust him even more. We flash forward and we get Ares and Percy fighting. I think this was interesting. I loved the water power stuff going on. Insane. Loved it. It was honestly a little anticlimactic how it ended. It was very short. It felt like they kind of had to squeeze some stuff in, and so they really made this big scene of Percy fighting a literal god. Not even just a god, the god of war, and him winning as a 12-year-old. That's insane, but we don't really get to kind of like marinate on that, I guess, because it's just such a quick scene. Percy travels to Olympus and he sees Zeus. I'm pretty sure Poseidon was also supposed to be there, but he doesn't come in until later. Percy was telling him off. I'm like, you're talking to the king of the gods and you're telling this man off. You have some balls, and he does. He is literally insane. I don't know, his character is just so interesting because especially from the books, he really downplays a lot, and he will like overplay some things but also downplay so much, and also his kill rate, guys, it's insane. He's badass. Poseidon ends up coming in and saving Percy, which I love that little connection, and he says obedience doesn't come naturally to you, does it? And then the way the sea does not like to be restrained. We love that quote. So happy it's in there. Percy has this whole moment with Poseidon, which I adored. I think it was so good, especially because in the book they kind of had that little moment, but this one is more intimate, and I just loved that. Percy is dropped at camp in front of Thalia's tree. He goes off and is like, welcome back to camp and whatnot. Annabeth is already there. Him and Luke end up going off while all of these fireworks and things and celebrations are going on, and the actor of Luke is so good. He is so good. He brought his all to that scene, and it was beautiful. It was awesome. He just brought everything that he could into it, and I adored it. The contrast of the celebration of fireworks to this like super duper intense scene that is literally supposed to be a heartbreaking betrayal was magnificent. I loved it because you just had these like bright lights flashing back while this super serious thing was happening. I love me some contrast, so that was beautiful. The lighting was also beautiful during the scene. They know how to do their lighting. They know how to do their set, and they know how to do their lighting. They are literally excelling at that. It is so beautiful all the time. I can count so many moments where the lighting is just beautiful. It's like literally like honey on the screen. The set, beautiful as well. I don't think we pay enough attention to it because it's so good. And then having this like super intense scene of Luke revealing everything that he's been doing, and then having Annabeth listening to all of this, and that realization that Luke has that Annabeth heard everything, this like girl that they literally fought to the death for each other, like I just wanted to cry. It was so sad. We finished this scene. Luke ends up going through this portal, and now we're at Percy kind of packing up to leave. Percy has his necklace, which is so cute. I've always wanted a little Camp Half-Blood necklace. I just never made one, but I should, to be honest. We got another seaweed brain, which is so cute. Walker looks way older in this scene, but I think that's just because they had to do reshoots. And then Sally and Percy reuniting was so cute. And then I went, oh fuck. Think that Percy is going back to the beach house, but it turns into this whole scene of it's actually a dream and Kronos is talking to him, which was so scary. And then Percy wakes up and Sally is there and he calls Kronos grandpa, and I feel like that just brought a little bit more humor back into it because Percy is a very like sarcastic and hilarious character, so I liked seeing that. I was so surprised because I was like, so did they not freeze Gabe into stone and sell him? They kind of just got rid of him with no explanation until the very end credits scene. That's where we get that scene, and it was funny. I literally wrote, I hope they continue and get renewed, which they do. So exciting. I really feel like they need to bring a lot more connection between themselves and their characters, and also their characters and other characters. I felt the acting the most in the Luke betrayal scene, which is a very important scene because it comes back later on in the books, and it's just so important because it affects Percy so much that he trusted this person and they just went and betrayed him in like one of the worst possible ways. I felt that so heavily in that scene, and it was brilliant. Rick stated on episode 7 that they were having trouble because they had so much to pack in and limited filming days, so makes sense while Krusty's scene was shortened. Rick Riordan's been posting about like random little tidbits of like behind the scenes stuff. So he also said he's happy that he added Sally and Poseidon's scene, that whole scene in the restaurant where Sally made an offering to Poseidon, and that whole scene, which I'm also extremely glad about. They also changed the boat in the underworld. They don't really cross that boat. It just made more sense that way and took less time. The headmaster is actually the kid's acting coach in the little Percy scene where he's kind of getting denied from this school and the headmaster is talking to Sally. He also approved the Percy to Montauk and not to Santa Monica with the Pearl because it made more sense and there were more important things to cover, which makes complete sense. I think they'll get more comfortable as time goes on. And I think that they'll get more comfortable with their characters and dive into them even more. And like, you can already see that they love these characters. I just think playing them is a whole different thing when you're like playing them versus reading about them and whatnot. Because it really felt like they were more focused on the plot this time around and kind of trying to like introduce everything. So I hope that the episodes become more fluid along with that, and along with like the whole plot breakdown and whatnot, because the episode arcs have been kind of all over the place. Sometimes they just stopped at really weird points for me, and I really want them to do more voiceovers, like when Poseidon did it at the very end of episode 7, and also Luke doing it at the beginning of episode 8. I think it adds so much to it, and I think it like relates so heavily because this is a book series that's turning into a movie, and I think it really recalls back to that, and I think it's just so good. And it's just, I love that kind of telling. I just think it's so good. I think this is kind of a series that needs to be binged rather than just watched an episode at a time because of all of the like different, like it ends at this weird point and then it stops at this point. I don't know. It's like a whole thing that I think would be better binged, to be honest. I think I might have different opinions if I go back and like watch it all the way through because I was just trying to like watch it like 2 episodes at least at a time just for like these videos because I didn't want to make one for every single video. I'm happy that Rick Riordan is so hands-on with this, and honestly, like whatever he chooses, I'll be happy with. So like, yes, I'm critiquing a lot of this stuff, but at the same time, it's like, I'm enjoying it. I am really enjoying it. I'm so happy they have a season 2. I'm so excited to see what they do with it and how far they go, but they better hurry because this cast is growing up. So I think I honestly just need to watch it again without like the mindset of like, I need to compare the book to this so that I can make a review on it and like see all the differences differences so that I can tell people the differences, and also just like critiquing it in general. I think if I watched it just by itself, I think I would enjoy it a lot more than I have been. But yeah, those are all my thoughts in my handy dandy journal. If you want to know how I decorated this journal, you can go watch one of my TikToks. My TikTok is linked down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know what your thoughts were on the finale. I would love to know, and what you're excited about for season 2. I'm very excited. I started rereading Sea of Monsters and I'm just pumped to get through it again. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.